Well, this is a story about Gus, another story about Gus. Remember the one about Gus in school? Well, this one is Gus goes to a party, and we'll see what happens when he gets to the party. Alright, it starts out early in the morning. Before the sun came up, Gus jumped out of bed. It was Saturday morning. And he was so excited. You can see how excited he was. Because it was the day of the party. The annual party. That means it only happens once a year. Kind of like your birthday. And Gus had waited all year for this day. He was so excited. He usually didn't get out of bed that early. But this day, he jumped out of bed. He woke up. He couldn't wait. He's still in his PJs, but look, he already made his bed. Because Gus had gotten an invitation to this party, a special invitation. It was addressed right to him. It said, "Gus, you're welcome to my party." And it was from this very old, wealthy woman, very rich woman. She lived in a big house on a hill on the edge of town, and all the kids from the neighborhood were invited to her house for a special party once a year. And they all got invitations like this. So Gus ran to the bathroom, even though it was really early. He washed up, he brushed his teeth, and then he wanted to get dressed. So he slipped over to his parents' bedroom and he peeked in the door and he said, "Mom, Mom, Mom, where's my shirt, my clean shirt?" And his mom heard him and she rolled over and she said, "Gus, what time is it?" "Oh, it's too early, go back to sleep." So Gus wandered back out of the room, closed the door carefully, and he just didn't know what to do with himself. He was so anxious to get dressed and get ready for the party. He walked around a while and played with some stuff, but then he went back and he opened the door to his parents' bedroom again. And he said, "Mom, Mom, please, Mom, please, may I get ready for the party? May I?" And she said, "Well, Gus, you know what it's like." She got up and she talked to him outside the bedroom. She said, "Gus, the party isn't until this afternoon, 3 o'clock, tea time this afternoon. And you know, if you get dressed and all ready for the party, you have to stay clean. You have to keep your clothes clean. How can you go outside and play? What if you'd fall off your bike and get dirt on your clothes or get scruffed up? You have to be very quiet." And he said, "Well, Mom, I promise. If you let me get dressed now, I promise I'll just stay inside. I'll read a book. I'll do something. I'll be really careful all day." So his mom said, "Okay, well, okay. Your nice clean shirt is on a shelf in the closet, and your trousers, your pants are hanging up there." So Gus went to the closet, got out his, see it? His nice white clean shirt and his clean trousers, looked at himself in the mirror. Oh, you can see he likes what he sees in the mirror, huh? How nice he looks. And even the meow there, the kitty likes what he or she sees. So Gus, what did he do? Now he was dressed. It was still early. It was still morning. Well, he had to go and sit in a chair. He had to spend his day. If I can turn the page here. See? Sit in a chair and read. Oh, look who's sitting up there. Oh, yeah. And he played games. He read. He just did everything to take very good care of his clothes and everything to be staying clean. Well, the morning went slowly, didn't it? It took a long time, but finally, it was afternoon. And then it was tea time. 3 o'clock, or it was soon going to be tea time, but it certainly was time to go. So he said goodbye to his dad and his mom, and he went outside and he started walking toward the edge of town, toward the hill where the big house was. And see, some other kids were going with him. Some of the other neighbor kids. You know, they had on their nice clean clothes. They were nice clean faces and hands. You know, there was a rule. To come to the party, you had to have a clean shirt or dress, and you had to have clean hands. So everybody made sure that they put on clean clothes, a clean shirt or a clean dress, and they made sure they had clean hands. Yep. But as they were walking along, Gus was getting thirsty. It had been a long time since he'd had lunch, and he couldn't wait to get to the party, but he was thirsty. And he saw some blackberries hanging above the bush over on the side. And he thought, oh, if I could just get one of those, that would be great. So he turned around. There was a little girl right there behind him. Her name was Pearl. And he said, Pearl, could you just wait for me? I wanted to climb up there and get one of those blackberries because I'm so thirsty. And Pearl said, no, don't you dare, Gus, don't you dare. Remember, you have to keep your hands and your shirt clean. You can't have anything on them, and blackberries, they could stain your shirt or your hands. Well, Gus said, I'll be careful. And you know, he could be careful. In fact, he was very careful. Look, he climbed up on that branch, and he reached out with his hand, and he was going to just get one blackberry. But the enormous blackberry was so ripe and juicy that when he touched it, it fell into his hand and bounced down onto his shirt. No. Yes, it did. Yes, it did. There's a little birdie watching too, isn't there? Gus does not look happy, does he? Nope. Because look what happened to his shirt and his hand. Splotch! The blackberry landed, and his face was so sad. And it's a white shirt, you know, a blackberry would show up very much on a white shirt. And he said, what am I going to do? What can I do? What can I do? It's so late. The party's going to start in a little while. Maybe I can brush it off. What can I do? And Pearl said, Gus, you're just making it worse. And he said, oh, I can't go home and change. There's not enough time. And I've been so clean all day. I've been so careful. And it just happened. You saw it. I guess we better just go the way it is. So they did. Pretty soon, they were on their way, and look what Gus was doing. He was putting his hand over it to cover it up. But that didn't make it go away, did it? No, it was still stained. Then they came to the big house on the hill at the edge of town. You can see it's a big house. In fact, look, it had a guy standing there, a man, a butler, standing at the door, welcoming the kids, saying, come on in, kids. Come on in. And the kids came in. They kind of tiptoed in. It was such a big house. And they lined up in front of the old woman. She was standing outside the dining room. She was dressed so nicely. She had gray, silver gray hair, and a black dress. And to each of the kids, she looked and said, "Welcome to my house. I want to check your hands and your clothes before you go into the dining room." So each one came up to her and she checked their hands. Here's Pearl coming up to the old woman to have her hands checked, and the old woman said, "Pearl, let me see your hands." "Oh, nice. And your dress? Oh, that's such a lovely dress, Pearl. Very, very nice. You're good to go. You can go on in there to the dining room." And every one of the boys and girls that came, she did the same thing. She checked their hands and their shirt or their dress. And then it was Gus's turn. And she said, "Gus, let me see." Gus, yeah, and Gus held up one hand, but she said, "Gus, what are you covering on your shirt? Why do you have your hand over your shirt? Don't you know the rules?" I have to see your shirt and both hands." "What about the other hand, Gus?" And Gus, he tried to swap hands and cover it with the other hand, but she said, "What's under your hand? What's on your shirt? What are you hiding?" We know, don't we, what he was hiding? He was hiding the stain. And once the old woman saw the stain, she shook her finger and said, "Oh, Gus, you've dirtied your shirt." But I couldn't help it," Gus said. "I couldn't help it. I kept so clean all day, and it was just out there before we got to your house." And she said, Gus, I'm afraid I can't let you in to the dining room. You know the rules. You have to have a clean shirt and clean hands, and it wouldn't be fair to all of those other kids. They were careful all day too, and they obeyed. They didn't try to reach up and get any blackberries because they knew they needed to obey the rule. I'm so sorry, Gus. You'll have to go home." Gus said, "Oh, no. Please, I can wash it off." And she said, "Gus, that's a blackberry stain. You can never wash that off. It would have to be put in the washing machine and scrubbed." "So, Gus, you'll have to go home. I'm so sorry. Those were the rules." And Gus was so sad he felt like crying. In fact, he almost did cry right there in front of her, but he didn't want to, so he turned around and he headed home. He would have to wait a whole year. A whole year before he would get another invitation to the party. Wow, that was going to be hard. And in the meantime, all the other children went into the dining room. Beautiful decorations, lots of games, and lots of wonderful food. Yep, but poor Gus, he couldn't go in because he had the stain on his shirt and his hands. He had not obeyed the rules. Well, you know, kids, this is a story that reminds us of what heaven is like. You know, heaven is much better than a party. Heaven is where Jesus is, and we've been invited to heaven, but God has some rules, and God will not allow stains, the stain of sin, on anyone in heaven. But we all have sinned. We all make these kinds of decisions that disobey and displease God. Even Grandpa and Grandma. Yep. But we have a wonderful, wonderful provision for us. God can still let us into His heaven, into His presence, because Jesus came and Jesus died for us. And he took away our stains. Yep, that's what Christmas is about, isn't it? It's about the coming of Jesus into the world. Yep, as a baby. Yep. What an amazing story. God sent his Son because he loved us and he wants us to be with him in heaven. But we have stains and we can't go. So God made a way. If we believe in Jesus and we ask for forgiveness, he will forgive us and cleanse us, take away all the stain, and we can be with him in heaven. Isn't that wonderful? Yes, Gus goes to a party, but he actually didn't get to go in, did he?